with all the big calls on all the big races. Time for another What a Shout. Back in the studio with you. We're deep into February. Is it the coldest February on record? Unbelievable. -11 at some parts of the southeast during the week. The will we, won't we kind of knew, didn't we? We won't. Newbury off. Warwick off. Reschedulations all over the place. An all-weather fest for you coming on Saturday, that's for sure. Whether you love it or not, there will still be some racing on for you, no doubt. And here's hoping that maybe we get some Irish jumps action across the Irish Sea on Saturday and Sunday as well. Really good card at Exeter, potentially as well. Just on that, if you don't know, Warwick's meeting, fair play to them. They've rescheduled it for Monday. Decks open, 10 o'clock again on Saturday. Hopefully most of the main protagonists turn up for what would be a really good card. And fair play to Newbury, fair play to ITV and the sponsors and the BHA. Next Sunday, what a weekend we're going to have. The whole entire Betfair card has been put back. That is on Sunday the 21st. I believe that the big race, what would have been the 335, of course, tomorrow, the Betfair hurdle, worth 125 grand, superb stuff. It's basically going to be set back to the weights, and on Tuesday you can re-enter for the rest of that card. Some sterling racing as well. Okay, myself, Dave Orton, get your comments in. What are you making of all these abandonments? Nothing we can do, is there? Absolutely nothing at all. But what we can do is bring you a great show. Really happy with the panel. Graeme Rodway joins me back in the studio. The hair is all over the place, my man.
This is proper lockdown hair, this, isn't it?
And you're sort of embracing it, G, aren't you? You're sort of...
Do you remember when the lockdown was announced just before Christmas on the Saturday? Boris Johnson came on at like 6 o'clock and he was just came out the blue and told everyone that we're going into lockdown. Well, the barber tweeted straight afterwards and said, I'll be open till 10 if you want to come down. And my missus was like, oh, you got to get down there, your hair's ridiculous. And it
what
was
happened?
Like 6 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I was settled in for the evening. I was like, I can't be bothered to go to barbers now, but God, do I wish I'd gone.
You'd have probably fallen in a bush on the way down there, let's face it. 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. Pat Cooney from our sponsors, Bet365, joins us on the show as well.
Yeah, good to be here, and hopefully, I'm no Michael Fish, but it looks as though this weekend is the end of the bad weather, and then we're set fair for a clear run right through to Cheltenham.
Well, you're Michael Fish, we'll call you that. I'm used to Paul Keeley being on this show quite a bit as well. He's a pretty good Bill Giles. You are an awful Ian McCaskill, can I just say that? This morning, he messaged me on my phone about 45 minutes after Newbury had gone by the wayside, as we all knew it was probably going to do. Newbury is off in capital letters. He said, what are we going to do? We're going to need to rejig the show. I'm thinking, where's he been?
I'd only just woken up then, Dave.
And the funny thing is, you're from Chelmsford area, and you said, we'll probably have to do Chelmsford. Then they called that off. What's the matter with you, man?
Well, I just had a bunch of emails because I've done a load of questions for tomorrow's Saturday jury feature for Racing Post, featuring Chelmsford, and they're all like, oh, is Chelmsford going to go ahead now? Oh, I don't know.
So, well, listen, we're hoping that's on tomorrow. Let's get straight to our guest then. This is what you've been waiting for. It would have been a big weekend for the yard with Metier running in the Betfair hurdle. I'm absolutely delighted to say from Dorchester, all the way from there, Harry Fry joins us.
Hello, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Oh, now listen. When we were teeing you up, you had a bobble hat on. You'd obviously come in from the work. You've thought, hang on a minute, I can't be doing that. Your hair doesn't look too bad, Harry.
Yeah, well, actually, it's I managed to put off my wife Kira attacking it with the scissors, and which meant that one of the girls on the yard attacked it instead, and she did a very good job actually. So much so, my brother was lining himself up next in the queue, but it's a better effort than Kira would have got done, that's for sure.
Well, at least come Cheltenham time, Harry, you're going to be one of the ones looking slightly smarter than the others. That's going to be funny, isn't it? It's worth saying to you out there as well. Look, we're not expecting any crowd in, Harry, are we? Spare a thought for Australia this morning as well. There's been an outbreak in a quarantine hotel there. 15,000 were going to be allowed into Flemington overnight. There's a Black Caviar Lightning Stakes Group 1 pivotal race in their calendar. Overnight, they've been told basically they can't have anyone at all. It's not just us in this. How have you been coping through all this pandemic, Harry?
Yeah, well, it's hard for everyone. I mean, we're obviously very lucky as an industry racing that we've still got an end product. We still run horses. I think as a business, we're very fortunate, and yes, it's obviously very frustrating that the owners obviously are paying to have horses in training and can't attend at the moment. But we're even more indebted to them and their support. But hopefully they're still getting some enjoyment from it, and we can look forward to things back to normal, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think there's a solid chance that owners might be allowed back into Cheltenham. Look, we've got some time on this week's show. I'm delighted to say, because Harry's story is truly fascinating. It's a real family affair down in Dorchester, isn't it, Harry? And let's ask you first and foremost how you got into racing. Richard Barber obviously had a lot to do with it. Huge, pivotal figure in Paul Nicholls' operation. You started off, was it 5 years you spent as assistant to Paul?
Yeah, well, I was very lucky to spend four years in Ditchit as a pupil assistant, and a further 2 years as assistant based at Seaborough, and running the satellite yard for Paul alongside Richard Barber. So, one of my first introductions with Richard was a 13-year-old schoolboy going in to ride out for the first time. He took one look at my hands, size of my hands, and said, "Study hard at schoolboy, you're not going to be a jockey." So Bill Tottenham through and through. So yeah, that was 13 boyhood dreams crushed in one go. I certainly wasn't going to be the next AP McCoy.
Well, it's fair to say that's worked out for you, Harry. And Seaborough was again pivotal to now what is your life story, isn't it? Because you met your wife Ciara, now the assistant. She came over from Ireland as head girl, didn't she, to Paul Nicholls? And she used to ride, correct me if I'm wrong, Rock on Ruby. Let's face it, I think was the horse that obviously put you on the map.
Yeah, very much so. And she'll tell you it's the horse that kept her in England. The reason that she stayed in England, to be honest. More so than me. So, although I try and counter that, but the first I knew in Metier was a CV to come and work and be a head girl at the satellite yard, and she was initially coming over for a year, and Rock on Ruby happened to be in the yard, and so did I. So anyway, one way or another, she stayed for a bit longer, and 10 years later, here we are.
You've had 380 winners, Harry. We counted up, I think, 370 over jumps. Obviously, Noel Fahidi was a huge part of your operation, wasn't it? Now, your first winner was Highland Retreat. Is that right?
That's right, yeah, down at Exeter. And fittingly in Richard Barber's colours as well.
And she won 7 on the spin for you. Now, this is going to be something of a theme with you, Harry, as we're talking in the next couple of minutes. Your first Grade 1 winner in your own right was, of course, Bit of a Puzzle. She was a great mare, wasn't she? Again, in those famous Chris Giles colours. And but that wasn't actually your first Grade 1 winner, was it? Because for people that don't know out there, I think in all but name, you had trained a champion hurdle winner, because you were overseeing, weren't you, Rock on Ruby, although it was in Paul's licence.
Yeah, absolutely. He was based in the satellite yard at Seaborough, and it was a fantastic opportunity for me to be given the chance to run the yard in Paul's name and with his and Richard Barber's obviously input and guidance. We were able to prepare him and get him ready for that great success in 2012 of the champion hurdle. And that was a fantastic opportunity to be involved with the team and that caliber of horse. And it's a day we'll never forget. And it was on the back of that that summer, I was able to launch my own training from Seaborough. So it was a fantastic opportunity.
And that brings us on very nicely to some other horses for you. I mean, how long have you got? We've had some real favourites out there, haven't we? Obviously, If the Cap Fits, you remember Cole Hurdle winner, your big entry winner, of course. And Harry, Rock on Ruby was second then the following year, wasn't he? And you have had horses that rack up these sequences. None other than perhaps your, I think, publicly most favourite horse out there. You know what I mean, Harry. And this brings in Pat Cooney, who's got a question for you.
Yeah, Harry, good to speak to you. You know what I mean. Harry was a wonderful servant, wasn't he? I think you got him, he was rated 1, 2, 3, and he ended up going to 1, 6, 7. I just wondered what your thoughts on were him and how he progressed and so forth. And an amazing stat with the horse throughout his career, he won first time out 6 times. So on a greedy part point of view. Could you keep him in training for one more season so we can all lump on him to win on his seasonal reappearance next time?
Yeah, well, he's 13 and still going strong. He just loves being in training, and I mean, he was an extraordinary story, and probably would never come across another one like him. I mean, from even so much as buying him, it was a very sort of bizarre situation in that a very random email came through from the owner selling the horses, and a couple of horses she had, and he was one, and it was sort of email you'd dismiss. It was not very well put together. But yeah, for whatever reason, I looked him up and thought, well, actually, it's not that far away. He's got an interesting profile. He won his first bump the first time out, and hadn't sort of he hadn't won again, but had been placed. And obviously, he was a maiden with a rating of 1, 2, 3, and we felt when we thought, well, this is a horse that hopefully we can have fun with, and he was ideal for our racing club at the time. And lo and behold, we didn't realise that the owner was selling because they were off behind bars, which we picked up on the local radio a few months later, having purchased the horse. So that was quite an interesting angle on it. But anyway, he joined us and won his first eight starts, I think. Obviously, our first Cheltenham Festival winner in the Albert Park in 2016, and it was just a fairy story, really, going from 123 maiden all the way up to 4-time Grade 1 winner. And, he's been a fantastic servant, and it's great for him to win it first time out this season. And we could see him next weekend in the Reynolds paid off. Obviously, he owes us nothing, but whilst he's enjoying himself and in good order, enjoying the routine, he goes out today, obviously, and certainly doesn't look like a 13-year-old out and about with a string. So we might see him again next weekend. Whether we see him again next season is another thing.
Yeah, absolutely remarkable horse he has been, and what a stratospheric rise it has been. The one compliment I can really give you, Harry, is that Rodney Batinga, who does Raceform Interactive at the Racing Post, every week we ask him to compile the stats for each guest, be it owner, be it jockey, be it trainer. And right at the bottom of the write-up that he gave you, he goes, all I can say is he's a very good trainer. 22% strike rate overall. We'll take that one, I think, very much. This is your time of year, Harry, as well, looking at numbers as well. Metier, is this a horse that you're interested in? Would you have been interested in him for the Betfair this weekend?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been a good race for novices, hasn't it, that Betfair hurdle, recent years. And there's a couple of interesting British novices, isn't there, over hurdles. And I think the thing that I'm really interested in with Metier is he a speed horse, So I think we've got him at 153, and so we'll talk about it later, Dave. But I think this Appreciate, the favourite for the Supreme, he looks vulnerable to a speed horse to me. He looks a little bit so. So how good is he, Harry? Do you think that he's got the speed to boot this Appreciate out the way?
Well, I certainly hope so, and that actually is where we'll next see him. He won't be running in the rearranged Betfair next weekend. That's a decision we've made with his owner Gary Stevens. Whereas we were happy to take the Betfair in en route to the Supreme. We didn't want to run in the Betfair and put in jeopardy his chance at the Cheltenham Festival. And obviously next Sunday it's great that they've rearranged the race and the whole meeting, in fact, and hats off to all involved. But from our point of view, rightly or wrongly, very much our focus with the horse is Cheltenham Festival and the Supreme Novices hurdle, and therefore that's where he heads next. And I'd like, and for that very reason, to say I think that he has shown, obviously he's come off the flat, he's shown he handles soft ground, but he's not a slow horse either, and he definitely stays. So I think he ticks a lot of boxes that gives him a very good chance in opening race of the festival.
Wow. Okay, breaking news then. Metier goes straight for the Supreme Novice Hurdle, the opening race on March the 16th. Wow, bombshell. You want to get that here on What a Shout. Let's have a look at what's coming up in the rest of the show. Racing clues we'll be giving you after the hot topic We are getting topical indeed. We'll be doubling down, as I said, on the racing clues. We'll be giving you the big races in amongst the race previews and, of course, some weekend winners. If you'd like to sign up to our sponsors Bet365, there's a referral code for you when joining. Type in SHOUT365. Minimum £5 deposit for up to 100 bet credits. Terms and conditions apply. Right then, hot topic time. Irish versus UK handicapping. You'd have seen recently Michael O'Leary, of course, famous owner Gigginstown Silks, and more to the point, owner of Tiger Roll. Will he indeed be going for a third Grand National in a row? Wow, unbelievable. Wasn't even on last year, was it? And could it not now feature Tiger Roll? The weights for the National do come out next week on Tuesday, so all fingers on the buzzers there. Really interesting time of year, of course. Now, Michael O'Leary basically came out, you'd have seen an interview, and said, unless, because of what he's done since winning the National, we'll get to that in a minute through the panel, unless he's rated in the high, 150s, there's a solid chance he won't be coming over. Now, Michael O'Leary has done this before, hasn't he, guys? He's basically said, tried to lean on the handicapper a little bit. We want him to come out. Will he even run in the Irish National instead? But I can't see him. I mean, Graeme, let's bring you in here before we move on to other arguments with the UK and the Irish handicapping. This comes up every year, just before Cheltenham. The weights will come out towards the end of the month for the handicaps there, once the entries are all in. There's more chance of me riding in the race, isn't there, than Tiger Roll getting a mark in the 150s.
Well, yeah, it's a million, isn't it? I mean, he's the best horse in the race. He's got an amazing record in the Grand National, and he absolutely has to top the weights. And if he goes and wins a third Grand National off top weight, I mean, there's going to be no doubt about it. He's right up there with Red Rum, isn't he? But I just think it's bordering on the ridiculous to suggest that he might be able to get in off the 150s. I mean, this is a great Grand National horse, a two-time winner.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, let's go to Harry Fry before we get our thoughts on Tiger Roll from Pat Cooney and what it could do anti-post to the race. What did you make of the interview, first and foremost, Harry, out there?
Well, I think, obviously, I mean, they're talking about going to win back at the festival. That's the first and foremost the target. But you can see, I mean, they're trying to influence, rightly or wrongly, the English handicapper in order to try and get the horse into the National off a weight that they deem would be a fair assessment of the horse and its current position. You can't disagree really when you take into account the French horse and perform through him. Easy land, sorry, and it's a fair point. So it will be very interesting to see what the English handicapper does now, because as they've done before, they've thrown the gauntlet down, and it'll be interesting to see what reaction it gets.
Well, I think that Harry's point is valid. The horse hasn't looked the same deal, has he? I mean, it was awful at Cheltenham, wasn't it? In November when he came over, on the flat before that, he looked a little stale. They're saying, is he still in love with the game? And if you take a horse like Bristol De Mai, who we're expecting to be sort of up there, who's ran second to Native Rim in the Cotswold Chase, which we'll look at shortly in the Racing Clues, how can he be above that? Strictly on what he's doing. I know it's a funny race, Gene. You've got the national fences that come into it, but there is a valid argument. They've got to lower him a bit. I'm not sure he has to be top weight.
On recent form.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you go back a couple of years ago when he won that cross country by, was it 20 odd lengths, hacking up on the bridle?
Yeah.
I think you got something like a Racing Post rating of 171.
He did.
For that, which was obviously putting him in the Gold Cup picture, let alone the Grand National. And if he was to run to that sort of form, then anything in the 150s would be ridiculous. Even so, in the 160s might still be mid 160s might still put him in well in. It's hard to know, isn't it? Though, how many times have we seen him recently? How many times has he run? 3 since 3 or 4 since his last Grand National.
Yeah.
So there's not enough evidence there that he has gone backwards. If he'd run maybe 6 times and run terribly every time, you'd say, oh well, stick him down a few pounds. But I don't think the handicappers can take a chance on him, given his record in the race and given a few times we've seen him since last Grand National. They can't take a chance that they put him down £6 and then he hacks up by 12 lengths on the steel, because all the other trainers will be rightly outraged.
Yeah, G is a close student of handicapping as well. Pat Cooney, let's bring you in then. Seismic waves this would mean, wouldn't it, for the anti-post market and indeed the race itself in April?
Yeah, but one thing I would say with the Grand National in recent years, that the Irish horses have dominated. I think they're 3 of the first 5 in the most recent one. And I'm looking at him here, Dave. He won the National in 2019 off 159 by 3 lengths from Magic of Light. And if you're only as good as your recent runs, well, he was fifth, beaten 14 lengths, beaten 17 lengths, beaten 29 lengths, and pulled up. So I don't think he'll be in the 150s. I certainly think he could be in the low 160s, though. And maybe that will just pacify everybody. So I expect maybe 163, something like that, with an intention to run. Of course, he does have to pay, shall we say, the Grand National winning tax. So he might go up a little bit more. But I think there's sufficient evidence in recent runs to say, well, he may have been overrated to get that mark that he got after winning the National. A low 160 to do for me, and maybe that's a happy medium. But he's 20-1 favourite at the moment. And if he disappoints in the cross country, he might not run ever again, I suppose.
Wow, unbelievable. Pat's actually called his mark out there. Of course, it's reared its head, didn't it? When Energumen's, his demolition job in the Irish Arkle last weekend. Again, we're going to talk about it in Racing Clues, but they've had to raise Shishkin's mark in Ireland. Now, if you go and look at our RPRs and you get into all that, we've had him on 170 the last twice. Okay, so were they a little bit low in the first place with that?
Possibly.
Did Shishkin deserve to be raised in Ireland, for example, just after, they've basically said, we went back and looked at his performance in the Lightning, and it was easy to rate him higher. It's all a bit wishy-washy, that, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe we were too high in Racing Post. Maybe we're too high, and maybe they're too low. It is opinions, isn't it? At the end of the day, handicapping is still just someone's opinion against the others. I mean, I rate our handicapper Steve Mason fairly highly, and would err on the side that his high mark of 170 is probably a bit better. I think he's 163, 164 officially in Ireland. They upped him to Shishkin.
163 up to 164, wasn't it? Because Energumen is on 163. Why not just go higher with Energumen?
Well, I mean, we've got Energumen at 168, I think, Racing Post rating. So we've only got £2 between Shishkin and Energumen. I personally think there is a possibility that Shishkin might have been just a few pound overrated. I think it's going to be a cracking race between the two at Cheltenham.
Unbelievable scenes, isn't it? So there's your hot topic. Look, this weekend we might be a little bit barren, but next week with the national weights out, Warwick on Monday, a rearranged Newbury card, it's all happening. Okay, Racing Clues, really looking forward to this because why? We've got the Dublin Racing Festival to pick our teeth through, dissect some of the form there, get what the panellists think about that. No doubt Harry Fry was watching some of those Irish novices as well. Been loads of opinions about whether Willie Mullins was getting an easy time of it over there. Unbelievable scenes. Outscored the rest of the Irish jumping world by about 33% or something ridiculous, didn't he? And of course we had two brilliant races at Sandown to go through as well. Should we just talk about Sandown first? Native River coming back. Brilliant highlight, wasn't it? Team Tizard looked like they're coming boiling right at the right time after what's been a terrible season so far.
Yeah, it was the most fascinating performance of the whole weekend for me, Native River, taking out the Irish action as well. I mean, a horse of that age, who has been around forever, running to a Racing Post rating of 177, which I think is £1 below his Gold Cup run. Basically, with Steve Mason, our handicapper, saying he's right back to his best. If he runs to that mark of 177, he'd go close to winning a Gold Cup. I think that Albon Photo only got 173 for his last Gold Cup win.
Yes.
So that puts him £4 ahead of Albon Photo. I mean, he's a great horse, isn't he, Native River? A real tough old warrior.
He beat the right horse, didn't he?
Yeah, no, coming off the third last, I was watching my missus and she was saying, they're all coming. And I was like, if they don't go by him on the bridle, they ain't going by him, And at the finish, he was just flying, wasn't he? And the ones in behind, he broke all their hearts. He's a great horse. I love him. And it's great for Colin Tizard to be, on his way back to form, it appears. He's had a terrible season. I'm a little bit loath to say, well, is he definitely back to form? Because we went through earlier in the season, I thought, a couple of false dawns, a couple of periods sort of towards the end of November where Tizard appeared like he was going to suddenly bounce right back to form and have loads of winners. He had one winner, two winners, it never quite developed. But this did look a bit more promising for him. Maybe he's going to have a fantastic spring, Colin.
It would be a complete contrast to what it was last year when he went in with that super team and they all sort of fluffed their lines a little bit, didn't they? Let's go to Harry Fry, the Native River Harry. Been become the first 11-year-old since Mandarin all the way back then to win a Gold Cup. Can he possibly do it?
Well, why not? He certainly showed his well-being at the weekend. He's been there and done it. As you said, Tizard team are coming right back into form. Obviously, it's no easy task at that age, but I say he's been there, done it. Great partnership with Richard Johnson. They know what it takes to do it. I mean, certainly he'll giving everyone a run for their money. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. Did you have a look at Sporting John as well, Harry? You must admire this. I mean, you've got a 25% strike rate yourself for JP McManus. You know all about how that operation works. For Philip Hobbs to get Sporting John back, beating Shamblu, who looked like he ran his race on figures as well. Dan Skelton's favourite in the Scilly Isles, of course. Looks like he might be going to the Festival Chase. That was some training performance, wasn't it?
I think that was, hats off to Philip Hobbs and his team to get John back to that level of form. Obviously, he'd only run the once before at Exeter over fences and finished a distant third. So, and for a lot of Saturday's race, in fact, it didn't look like he was going to be involved. I think it was only at railway fences last time round that suddenly he was just appeared in the back of the picture. And obviously, Shamblu has carried all for him so far this season over fences and was a very good winner of the Corto Star Novices Chase at Christmas. So he ran down a very much in-form rival, and he'd certainly, I mean, he looked a lovely horse this time last year over hurdles going into Cheltenham. That didn't happen for him. He's bouncing back just at the right time.
Yeah, it's a similar story with Colin Tizard as well as it was with Philip Hobbs last year. It looked like he had a great team going into Cheltenham. Remember, Pylon came within a whisker, didn't he, of giving him that winner, that Philip, after a pretty tough week. Let's give Pat Cooney a word on Sandown then. Must have been some ripples in some markets, Pat.
Yeah, and with Native River, you do look at him, he's 16-1, and he beat Santini by 17 lengths. And Santini's a shorter price to win the Gold Cup than Native River. I think a lot of this could be ground dependent. You know, if it's testing ground, it certainly brings Native River into the equation. I think if it's a soft ground Gold Cup, I think he'll be everyone's each way shout. And you look at the separation in the market with Album Photo at 3, then you've got A Plutard, Royal Pagail. We're not sure just exactly how good he is. Champ, who knows? Ken Boy might not even run. The Great Santini, people are beginning to think the honeymoon might be over with falling in love with him. And then you've got Native River and Frodon. So if you get a soft ground Gold Cup, it'd certainly be an each way play for me.
Wow, we're starting to warm up, aren't we? Okay, that was Sandown. Dublin Racing Festival, it was a brilliant 2 days, wasn't it? The prize money was up there. I know that Willie Mullins, farmed the meeting. I mean, where do we start? There's going to be stuff we're going to miss out, aren't we? Because even the handicaps were so good when we drop anchor, solid county hurdle type. Did we see the county hurdle type running in some novice races? Before we go to appreciate it, who I know you want to have a word about, you've already got to dig in there ordinarily. Chacun Pour Soi in the Dublin Chase. I mean, this time there were the fences. First time he's put together the 3-1s. Going to take it. It's not a bad champion chase if they all turn up at all, is it?
No, he's the standout 2-miler around. There's going to be loads of people, without doubt, come all those Cheltenham Festival previews or whatever. Maybe they won't be, obviously, in the pubs or whatever and clubs this year, but I'm sure there'll be plenty online. And the one thing that's going to be thrown at Chacun Pour Soi is exactly what John Howes threw at him, which is, can he do it at Cheltenham? But to me, he looks like an absolute top-notcher. Every time I see him, he just looks special, this horse. He jumps so well and he's got such a good cruising speed. I'd be absolutely amazed if they get him there on a day and he doesn't win the champion chase. I think he would have been right up there with some of the top class ones in the past, Moscow Flyers and Azertiups. He reminds me a little bit of Azertiup, really.
Interesting.
The way that he goes through his races, he's quite keen, can't he? He jumps well. And I think that he's different gravy to them, so I hope he gets there this year.
You're not worried about the...
Not at all.
It was a stone bruise that kept him out, as Patrick Mullins reminded us last year. A lot of people held that against Chacun Pour Soi, thinking his fragility. But it's stone bruise like 1,000-1, Harry Fry, isn't it? You must have admired that performance from Chacun Pour Soi.
Oh yeah, that was special. And I mean, exactly. I mean, people are asking the question about whether he's going to make it. But I mean, very, very unlucky last year by all accounts. Stone bruise is something you can be over in a matter of days, and to be the morning of or the day before the champion chase is very unlucky. So he does just look awesome, and you hope that we all want to see the best horses running in the best races, and that is what Cheltenham's all about. So you hope they all get there, including him. And no race is a one horse race. They've all got to turn up and perform and deliver. So yeah, until he's been there and done it, you'd have to say, right, well, is there anything to take him on? But it's hard to make a case for anything else. Sorry, anything else. But he's the one to beat, and it's going to be a all of the race.
I think we know what Harry Fry's banker of the festival is, don't we? What did you make of Honeysuckle, Harry? I want to come to you with this. She scraped home in the Irish Champion Hurdle last year. It was imperious, wasn't it? We really saw the real Honeysuckle. I guess the clue was Kenny Alexander and Emily de Bromhead coming up before the race saying we're going Champion Hurdle this time. It showed what sort of form she was in. Any doubters that she had, she ridded of them, I think we can say that. But what do you make of this £7 mare's allowance, Harry? Because it's almost becoming like the Arc de Triomphe on the flat, isn't it? This sex allowance, if you like. Is it too much £7 or an epatante?
Well, I think obviously those two mares, you could argue, it is too much. But then the reason we've got these mares in race at this level now is because they've been the mayor's program has been strengthened, particularly over here, year on year, and we're seeing, and it's encouraging people to keep mares training and have mares training, and which means that we're bound to see that the better horses, better mares about. And I think the good thing is that with trainers' connections aren't afraid when they've got a really good mare to go and take on the girls, and I don't see that £7 is an unfair advantage. Yes, you could argue that obviously the very best mares don't need it and would probably get away with it without £7. But there's a reason why we've got these good mares in training in years, because they've been given a chance. People are encouraged to run them. Honeysuckle, as we talked about winning streaks there earlier, she's unbeaten in 10. She's confidence is sky high. She's been able to build her program up through the next races, and now she's ready, as Connection said, to take on the very best, and best of luck to her in the Champion Hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. Said not too much, says Harry Fry. Now that is interesting. If you think about the top male champion hurdlers, there's probably not so many top notches about. Perhaps some connections might disagree with that. Pat, let's come to you on this. Will she go off favourite now, do you think, for the champion hurdle? I do.
I think she probably will do, yeah. And I think it's interesting with this £7 mare's allowance. I was reminded the other day by someone quite a lot older than me that when Glen Carriglady won the Cheltenham Gold Cup in the 70s, she won that off levels. So isn't it amazing, like all these years later, they get £7. They're the exceptions rather than the norm, the likes of Epatante and Honeysuckle, though, aren't they? And I think with Honeysuckle, last year when she won at Leopardstown this race, we were all thinking, struggled to win a bit. But this was a new look Honeysuckle, wasn't it? Quite dominant from a long way out. Epatante's going to have to be at her level of last year's win. Her last run wouldn't cut it, I'm afraid. Honeysuckle, she's got all those ones by her name, and it was an eye-catching performance, no doubt about it. I expect Honeysuckle to go a favourite, and it is between the two. I think there is separation with the rest of them. You've got Silver Streak as your third favourite, a good, likeable horse. But if you want brilliance, then you got it with Honeysuckle over the weekend, I think.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's have a quick word about Energamine, who took out the Irish Arkle. We previously mentioned him on the show, so we don't have to go too hard on this. But, look, I'm doing some of these racing preview books at the minute that are coming out for you shortly. And I'm having to do the key form race for the 2-mile novice chasers. It's going to be very hard for me not to say that is the key form race from last Saturday. He beat Franco Deport, who'd taken out the Grade 1 that Notebook won last season at the Christmas meeting. They were all there, weren't they? I mean, Shishkin's beating Tamarak Damathon, who's hopefully going to run in the rearranged Kingmaker. We'll get a line on that. But I don't know, I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? We've all of a sudden got a proper 2-miler again.
Yeah, absolutely. And the form is bang there. And if Shishkin wasn't in the race, the Arkle, then he'd be a short price favourite, and rightly so. And I think the racing post rating he achieved that day, 168,
that's right,
would have been good enough to win the majority of most Arkles.
The last two it would have taken
in recent years. So he's obviously bang there on form, and will give Shishkin a right old race, especially because, to my eye, if there's one criticism you can poke at Shishkin in his last 2 starts, just in the early part of his races, he's a little bit slow at his fences for me. In the early part, the first 2 or 3, he can just takes himself time to warm up. Now, if Energumin, who's a front runner, can get out there and really put him under pressure early, then we'll see how good Shishkin is.
I would wager that if you go back to Nico de Boinville's comments after the Lightning, it's only when horses start to put on the pressure that Shishkin comes alive. Look back at his Supreme Novice. That's borne out as well. How could he win?
The faster they go, the better Shishkin might well be. That is the interesting thing. But it's worth also mentioning the bumper, isn't it? The winner of the bumper, Kilcrew, won by 12 lengths. That was for a racing post rating of 142. That would have won every single champion bumper, certainly for the last 12 years, if he could reproduce that in the champion bumper. That suggests that he's possibly the best favourite in the whole festival.
That makes him £5 going into the festival, better than Boy Allen if you take racing post racing strictly. Pat, who'd have thought Sir Gerhard wouldn't be favourite for the champion bumper come March?
Well, absolutely. With Kilcrew, I thought was probably, as Graeme says there, I thought he was the most impressive winner of the entire weekend. And it was amazing to read that Willie Mullins wasn't even sure he was a stable pick in the bumper. But you looked at him, the way he travelled. I mean, I'm not as old as I look, but and you tend to be a bit cynical at these races. But I kept watching that bumper again and again Saturday and Sunday, and I just thought it was the most impressive performance I've seen for a long, long time. And then I thought, well, he's bound to win at Cheltenham now. He's 6-4. He's not a bet at the moment. But I was a little bit put out really when all the time judges and the stopwatch gurus were saying, "Oh, hang on, there was a mid-race meltdown of pace in the race." And this horse won by 12 lengths, 9 lengths back to the third as well. I just thought he was an absolute aeroplane, and he might even be better in a normal run race. So I thought he was probably. If you said to me, yeah, you can take one out of this race, I would take Kilcrew and probably Monkfish as well. But it was wall to wall the superstars on the weekend. My only caveat would be the Gordon Elliott horses again didn't really fire. So maybe all is not as it seems with the Mullins horses, but visually they look sensational.
Yeah, okay, so we'll get to Monkfish. Don't worry, we'll have a word on Monkfish later. That's going to be Pat's big call, which we need to whittle through. Look, we've doubled down on these racing clues, but I think we needed to. There's not much racing on this weekend. We know that you love it when we go through all this. So get your comments in below, basically. Who was the performance of the Dublin Racing Festival? Can Native River win as an 11-year-old at the Gold Cup? You're getting some clues here. I want a word, though, on Appreciate It. We're talking about Kilcrew, same colours, bidding to go one better than Appreciate did in the bumper last year. You don't like Appreciate It, do you?
I don't like him much.
You called him a slow old boat. To me, live on Saturday, he went, come on, let's old boat him. And this morning, you've sort of given a bit of caveat. He's a good boat. He's a speed boat.
I don't think he's a speedboat. I think he's a decent boat.
What sort of boat do you think he's?
I think he's like a Denman boat. Remember as a 2.5 mile hurdler. Remember watching Denman go round that day in the Challow at Cheltenham, as it was, because it was actually cancelled at Newbury, and he looked absolutely superb. But I remember in the back of my mind just thinking, he looks a bit slow. There might be something at Cheltenham that might just have a little bit too much pace for him, and that was over 2.5. Now, to my eye, I appreciate it looks like an absolute dour stayer at 2 miles. He looks like all he wants is to gallop all day. I thought, was it Ballyadam? I thought he was coming to get him,
That's what impressed me about Appreciate It, though. We had that side on camera at Leopardstown. He finds extra.
When something gets to him on the bridle, probably Metier or one of those, he won't be finding extra. He's a boat, that horse. He's a very good boat, though. He could be a Gold Cup boat in time, but to my eye, he looks a slow, staying chaser in the making, and he'll get beat at Cheltenham.
It's not taking him long to warm up, has it? Appreciate It. He's a boat, a tugboat, and Harry Fry will back on. He thinks that Metier can beat it. Right then, a race preview for you. It's the 2 o'clock at Lingfield. This is going to be on terrestrial television, 0 to 95. Tiny little sprint for us. I say tiny little sprint, probably about 4 runners, aren't they? All interesting, though, in their all right. And some last time out winners all over the place here. Who did you like?
Well, I did this race for the place perm I was looking at for the paper, and I thought it was a very difficult race for a place pot because obviously you've got to have the winner if you're trying to get through. But
so
it's between 3, obviously Water of Leaf, Secret Handshake and Charlie Fellows. You can throw out the other one. I think if I had to go for one, I'd probably go for Charlie Fellows because he's the bigger price.
Since Cheap Pieces have on, he's gone really well. I think Water of Leaf might be the one. Pat Cooney?
Yeah, Water of Leith, very interesting, isn't it? Jim Goldie, that's a long old journey from up north to come up at Lingfield. So he must have had this race in mind for a long time. And why not Water of Leith, the most inexperienced horse in the race with the biggest upside as well? I'd take Water of Leith. Jim Goldie, I was a bit concerned. Maybe he's struggling to get amongst the winners, but he's still a very capable trainer. And when he comes travelling, when he turns up at Goodwood, he normally goes close. So Lingfield to Scotland is a bit nearer than Goodwood. So I'll take Jim Goldie's Water of Leith, and it'll be a pleasant ride home for them.
Yeah, okay, not so many runners then, but all interesting in their own right. Water of Leith, he can take this out. Okay, 2:35 at Lingfield, up to a mile we go. More season performers in here. I have to say that Crackling stands out to me here. Martin Mead, Ryan Moore, a horse that's lightly raced. Really good race he ran at Southwell last time. That form was worked out. Had a horse called Thrave just behind him. And Duffer, the horse that was under a double penalty that defied that, has since run well. He was in hot vein of form. If he just improves a little bit, Vale of York is his sire. I think he'll act around here fine.
Yeah, he should do, and he looks the most likely winner, doesn't it? This is going to be something for Pat probably tomorrow. Is you watch these Ryan Moore multiples start going in. Ryan Moore's got some really good rides there at Lingfield on Saturday, and I bet there'll be plenty of punters going in for the Ryan Moore trebles, 4-timers, 5-timers, even if he's got that many rides. I'm not sure, but I did see him on a few favourites, and this looks one of his best chances.
I think if there is a bonus of the current situation out there is that these big riders have to stick around for the all-weather, don't they? Pat, what do you make of that then?
Well, I think to make that 3 Cracklings, really. He looks too good to be true, really, doesn't he? He's got excellent form. Ryan Moore for the Martin Mead stable. Terrific run. You might say, yeah, but that was Southwell. Well, can he act around Lingfield? Well, he won at Lingfield on his debut, so he ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't he? It may be the bounce factor, 16 days since he ran after a lengthy layoff. That's all I got. I think he'll win.
If you serve up a roast, let it not be said that we don't mind a bit of crackling. All right then, big calls. Been a great show so far. Can we possibly top it? I'll tell you what, let's go to one man who might kick us off in controversial style. Graeme Rodway.
I've absolutely been at my wit's end in the last couple of weeks, Dave, about jumpers, bumpers.
Is this why the hair's gone on it?
I just every day it seems in the last 2 weeks with this bad weather we get jumpers, bumpers cars, and they're just awful, aren't they? They're just horrible races. They're absolutely horrible.
Mean as betting races?
They're horrible betting races. They're horrible to watch. They're horrible tactically. The jockeys don't know how to ride in them. I mean, watch some of those races yesterday at Kempton, right? They got these big National One chasing types all lining up in a bumper around tight turns around Kempton. It just looks wrong for a start. And then, like we always say on flat racing, there's certain jockeys, aren't there, on the all-weather who are really, really adept at riding those all-weather tracks really well. I don't think it's anything against a lot of the National One jockeys, but they just don't ride these all-weather tracks very often. I just don't think they ride them very well. I watched some of the races at Kempton yesterday. They were just going slowly, and then suddenly you get to the top of the straight at Kempton, and it was right, okay, hell for leather to the final finish, and it was all these big old boats trying to sprint for 2 furlongs. You ended up with like 6 in a row on the line with like photo for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Look at some of the results at Kempton. It was like 9-1, 25-1, 20-1, 16-1.
You got your Racing Post app for this. That's how
there was
serious you are.
50-1 shots going in all over the shop, simply because these races are so falsely run. Anything can happen in them, and there's no angles in them for punters. They're horrible to watch, and I hate them.
Wow. All right. Well, look, having curried favour with our guest, who I thought might be coming back on, Harry Fry, I'm going to take this to you. Harry, you've actually got a really good record in Kempton bumpers. I noticed this. This was something in our stat sheet we got from Racehall Interactive. You had just a one runner there yesterday. It drifted all the way out in the betting. Remind me of its name. It just looked like a work in progress, that horse.
Yeah, muy bien. And I think that is the point, and that's where, I mean, no one's forcing anyone to bet or even watch these races if they don't like them. And they very much, in the circumstances, they serve a purpose. Yeah, it's not what National One horses are bred for, running around all weather tracks over 2 miles. But for example, my runner yesterday in the newcomers bumper, he's quite a light framed horse. Been trying to get him started for the last month, if not more. And we've had meetings off. Didn't want to run him in really bottomless ground. And yeah, it turned into a sprint up the straight. But for me, Ben, it was just an ideal. It was a chance to go to racing, get some experience into him. He's only beaten 11 hopefully go to somewhere like Wincanton in a month's time with that experience under his belt, and he'll take plenty of catching. That is the whole point of those jumpers bumpers. It's an opportunity to just get horses out. It's almost a sort of, it's not, they are races in their own right, but with horses that don't want slow ground or haven't had the opportunity with abandonment and things like that, it gives us as trainers, as horsemen, a chance to get horses runs into the horses. Owners are paying a lot of money to have horses in training. They don't necessarily want to see their horses running in jumpers bumpers, but they know it serves a purpose. It's a meaning to an end, and I think that's what we use them all for. And I had a couple of other runners earlier on in the week in Kempton as well. Justice Sting was a runner who'd beaten less than 9 lengths over 2 miles 2. Hasn't run since the beginning of November. That's hopefully put him spot on for the valuable 3-mile handicap race back at Kempton at the end of the month. So they serve a purpose. And I think that's what needs to be remembered. They're not necessarily betting races as you'd normally expect. In the form, you get big price winners, odds-on favourites that look unbeatable on paper, don't necessarily win because tactics, etc., aren't as straightforward in those types of races. So, but they very much serve a purpose.
Don't worry, Harry. I'm agreeing with you. Look, we're trying to take this show to the next level. You've disgraced yourself again, haven't you?
This reminds me of. Do you remember a few years ago at Kempton they had a race that they run to the Overture? You remember the?
Oh yes.
It's like,
You think they should put the music on for them?
Yeah, I think they should put music on for it.
Right.
And then when they get to the top of straight, they should all go charge.
Unbelievable. No, all right. I've got to stop him before he does something ridiculous. All right. Okay. Do you agree with him? Again, comments below. Can't wait to read these. Okay, Pat Cooney, get us back on track.
Yeah, I'm going to play the game that I'm Rich Ritchie, and I own Royal Pagail, and I also own Monkfish. And they're both similar types, they're both hugely exciting prospects. But there's no talk of Monkfish going for this year's Cheltenham Gold Cup. He's going for the Novice Chase, which is odds-on favourite, and rightly so. Royal Pagail, who is a bigger price to win the Novice Chase, is only 10 to 1 to win the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Monkfish is favourite for the 2022 Cheltenham Gold Cup. And why not run and supplement Monkfish in this year's Cheltenham Gold Cup? He looks the best novice chaser by a long, long way over this sort of trip. If Royal Pagail is a 10 to 1 chance, Monkfish would surely be a lot less in price. Album Photo 3 to 1, scratch below the surface, Champ, Ken Boy, Santini, Froden. Honestly, Monkfish, wouldn't he not look out of place in this year's Cheltenham Gold Cup? I'd supplement him and run Royal Pagail in the novice chase and have 2 bites of the cherry.
Wow, all of a sudden, a real headache that we're on. He hit the 170 mark on RPRs, didn't we? He really did look monstrous, didn't they? Paul Townend's so effusive in his review of him afterwards. He basically said the perfect racehorse. A mark of 170. If you think, could he run in a Gold Cup and win it?
Yeah, he wouldn't be far off of 170, would he? I was saying, Album Photo 173, I think, last year.
Native River 177, though. He's got that's the sort of...
Yeah, on really testing ground. As I think, was it Pat said earlier, Native River probably is ground dependent, but then is Royal Pagail ground dependent? He looks very, very good on the testing surface. Now, if it was to come up a quick round Gold Cup, that would be a little bit of a concern for me with Royal Pagail. But he looks super too. So, it's a tough call, isn't it, for Rich Ritchie? It's a nice problem to have.
Okay, Harry Fry, just give us a quick word on Monkfish. What do you make of him? He's a monster, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. He couldn't be anything but impressed with him. And, it's an interesting point you make there, but obviously he's coming from the Mullins stable, and they've got the reigning Gold Cup winner, 2-time winner. So, Willie Mullins is always keeps his novices to novices almost. Always the case, and so it'd be very hard to see them supplementing for the Gold Cup. But he certainly looks like he has a Gold Cup. He's a potential Gold Cup winner in waiting. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Here. All right. My quick call then. It's a big call. St Calvados. It's just an absolute mess, isn't it? Thankfully, I backed him non-runner no bet for the Ryanair. I'll be surprised if he doesn't end up there. He may go to Ascot next Saturday. It's all a bit of a mess, this with St Calvados, isn't it? Feel for Harry Whittington, really, because that was just a bit of a shambles in the Cotswold chase. Mr. Fisher now, Paul Keeley's has brought this to our attention as well. I know the stable are extremely keen on him now for the Ryanair as well. on Racing Post ratings, he really ought to be one of the favourites. This is now a race with more letters than form figures amongst all the rivals. Of course, we've not even mentioned Min. While Patrick Mullins did absolutely the right thing, putting him up at the right time. That wasn't the Min that we know. Maybe he will go off favourite. It's going to be hard to bounce back from a P, isn't it, at the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Mr. Fisher, double figure price. A lot to like.
That race is like that every year. It's always a race where you look at it 2 months before and you think, oh, there's nothing in that. And then come the day, it's an half decent race with a bunch of horses that have dropped out the other races.
Yeah, listen, there were some massive, massive calls for you. Let's bring in our friends at myracing.com. Check out their site for expert analysis and tips. Huge Twitter following they've got. There've been some meaty doubles they've been landing and concentrating on Lingfield, wisely so. 235, they agree with Crackling, and they're going to double up in the 345, back down to 6 furlongs. That could be the key for inevitable outcome. Weekend winner time. Happy days. I'm going to keep it simple. In the 235, we all like him. Crackling. Ryan Moore and Martin Mead. He can take that out, the first one. Graeme Rodway.
Yeah, mine's in the 310 at Exeter on Sunday. It's called The Glancing Queen. This one finished third behind, I think, 2 of the best novices in Britain, Brave Man's Game and Stargate in the Challow hurdle at Newbury. Probably the strongest novice hurdle bar the Tolworth that Metier won, and went on to win next time at Bangor at a very short price. I think that she'll be too good from 310 at Exeter on Sunday. Glancing Queen.
Thank you, G. Yeah, she's a right tool. Pat Cooney.
First race at Lingfield, 11:45. Number 3, Muhariba, trained by John Gosden. Improved for stepping up in trip last time. One going away, goes up another furlong. And the keys to the kingdom in the flat season is going to be back in Benoit de la Sayette, the best £7 claiming apprentice jockey there's been for years. He claims £7 for this one tomorrow. He's gold dust. Just keep backing him in apprentice handicaps like this one is tomorrow. Muhariba and Benoit de la Sayette aboard.
He's the best named one as well, isn't he?
He's been rehearsing that all morning, Pat Cooney. Some gold
still
dust.
got it wrong.
Still got it wrong. Yeah, okay, some gold dust from Pat Cooney there. Now, Harry, obviously it's a barren week. Most of the weekend. We should say if Warwick's on Monday, will White Hot Chili Philly still go?
I certainly hope so. Yeah, that'll be the plan. She won well at Sandown the last time, and she'll have no problem with the trip or the ground. So yeah, that's been the target since her last success.
Yeah, she's a really, really nice mare. Really like her. And what about a horse coming up in the next week or so, Harry? Something a little bit dark and that our viewers can latch onto. Anything you're excited about?
Well, I mean, having said that we're not running Metier in the rearranged Betfair, I'm going to go for one that I like the look of since the entries have come out, really, and for that race, and presumably the Gary Moore team will still run him, and that's 50 Ball, who was actually held an entry in the Tolworth hurdle at Sandown, and I thought it was very telling that they didn't run the horse in the race, and with a view that he's and hasn't been seen subsequently, and was obviously due to run in the Betfair. I think he off 1-3-1. The Moors know how to win that race, and he was one that stood out for me. Obviously, I haven't heard if they're going to confirm he runs for next week's race, but you'd imagine that would still be the plan.
Absolutely. There you go. Absolutely love that. He doesn't run Metier in it, but he's going from one of Gary Moore's. There's a 4-timer of a week-long winners. Okay, that's all we've got time for then on this week's What a Shout. It's been a really fun programme, I've got to say that. Harry, it's been great to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Good luck for the rest of the season ahead.
Thanks very much. Great to be part of it.
We shall be fingers crossed the first race of the Cheltenham Festival for Metier, of course. Pat, great to have you back this week.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. So keep warm and keep healthy.
And Graeme Rodway, busy weekend for you ahead?
Yeah, should be quite a mad afternoon trying to work out what's going on with all these cancellations, but we'll get all the best stuff out there for you in the Racing Post tomorrow.
It's going to be a sizzling week next week as well, isn't it?
Fantastic week. I can't wait to get back to normal, not just with a lockdown, but with normal racing as well. And
normal weather.
Normal weather would be nice. Cheltenham, come on the spring.
Yeah, okay, come on the spring, absolutely. Great to have you watching as well. Don't forget to download the free Racing Post app, the must-have racing app. You can do that on the App Store itself or the Google Play Store. Don't forget, safe gambling, that's what it's all about. Don't have to play in every race. Just if you don't know much about the all-weather, just take a couple, nice and slowly this weekend, please. And of course, until then, from us all here at What a Shout, enjoy the sport.